Hey everybody, welcome back. In today's video, we are starting Unit 3, collecting data. That's what this topic is going to be all about. And just to kind of prompt this section, try to always think of this. Always ask yourself, how were the data collected? What were the methods that the researchers used to collect this data? So I did some research on polling that's been happening lately. I'll show you some of the results that I kind of came up with. Benford's law kind of applies to what we're going to do later. So again, I went to BBC and I don't know, I just like looking at British news for some reason. And I saw the polls for this presidential election that's happening next week. Certainly saw like October the 26th, this poll shows that 50% of likely voters support President Biden, well, 46%, or the presidential elect. What am I even saying here? The Democratic Party elected person. I don't even know. All right, so 46% favor Donald Trump in this year's general election. MOE refers to the margin of error. They have a margin of error in this poll of 3.2%, and they sampled 970 likely voters. Always important to know that you want to look at the sample size. Like this sample here asked 5,000 likely voters, so that's certainly a lot more than 970. But they didn't provide a margin of error. So that's interesting. You would want to know why. Why doesn't this and this, USC Dornsife, why doesn't this poll provide a margin of error? That's something that you want to ask yourself. This one only asked 800 people, and they asked registered voters. So if they're registered to a party. You would want to know what party they're registered for. Anyhow, so what I did from here was go to Real Clear Politics, which is another good website for looking at polls. And then this Emerson poll that was conducted October the 25th and October the 26th, they sampled 1,121 likely voters, and again found that 50% support Biden and 45% support Trump. So a lot of things go into conducting a sample. I went to their website to look more into their methodology on how they conducted this poll. Pretty interesting stuff here. Let me show some more of their data. So this came from that Emerson poll. So doing some research, I'm able to see the gender that they asked or that were involved in their sample. So we can see right off the bat that 48% of their sample was male, 52% were female. We've got approval ratings for the president. We've got party affiliations. So you can see that, well, they surveyed more Democrats than Republicans and independents, which makes sense. I think a lot more people are registered as Democrats than Republicans, and more people are registered as Republicans than independents. Something that I'd have to look at. I'm not really positive on those percentages. Something else that I thought would be interesting to look at, going down to some of these demographics. So we've got, for statistical purposes only, can you please tell me your ethnicity? This was the question that they asked. And here are the results. So we see that 70% of their sample were white or Caucasian, 12% were Black or African American, 3% Asian American, 12% Hispanic or Latino of any race, and then 3% fall into the other category. So what you want to do is be as representative of your population of interest as possible. So I looked up some census data and found this information. So these are using predictions of the United States population currently based off of the 2010 census that they conducted. So it looks like 76% of Americans are white, 13% are Black or African American, and so on and so on. So again, you want to match these things. You want to be as representative of the population as possible. And we want to know what questions were asked, what order they were asked. A lot of things can introduce bias, can systematically favor some outcome. And that's something we'll talk about a little bit later. So let's just go back to kind of a general overview of what we're doing today. Take just a second to get back there. There we go. So you always want to know where data come from. That is kind of the idea behind this entire section or this unit. We want to be as fair and accurate as possible. Hey, so today's learning goal is really just to identify populations and samples in statistical studies, though. Taking it pretty slow. So the population just refers to the group of interest. Who are you trying to collect data on? So this population, they represent the entire group of individuals, all individuals that you are interested in. So this giant group here is the population. That is the population. And just kind of a review from something that we talked about a long time ago when we were doing one variable data, populations, they're known as, or whenever you see, like on that census where I just saw that, I think it was 76% of Americans are white or Caucasian, the population, that statistic or that value, it's known as a parameter. So a value that's referring to a population is known as a parameter. Now the population, if you get data on the entire population, that is known as a census. Census collects data on the entire population. Now, that is often not even possible. It is very difficult to collect data on entire populations. Like if you were trying to sample an ice cream, you wouldn't want to eat the entire tub of ice cream because then you wouldn't have anything else to sell. So sampling sometimes destroys the actual item, so it just makes it not possible to conduct a census. So again, hey, if we're trying to collect data from the population, that is called a sample. So what we want to do is pull out a group of individuals from the population, and that group is going to be representative of the population, and hey, that's known as our sample. And just one more kind of review word, if we have a value calculated from a sample, that is known as a statistic. Again, your sample, I'll just write it off to the side here. This is something that you'd want. Samples must be representative of the population. So hey, if I wanted to learn how or get some information on how Piedra Vista students feel about a certain situation, I would not want to ask kids from Farmington High about their opinion. If I'm concerned about Piedra Vista, I want to ask people from Piedra Vista, not from Farmington High. That's what I mean by representative. What that? Representative, my bad. Okay, so identifying population samples, I got a couple of examples that we're going to go through, and that's going to do it for this video. Right here. So again, we're just going to identify the population and sample in each of these settings. So the first setting, an assembly line at a factory produces about 500 cars a day, each day. Quality control managers inspect 25 cars at the factory and perform an in-depth review of each of those cars. So the population here, why I included this as an example was sample surveys do not have to be limited to just people and their opinions. Groups of interest can also be like animals, they can be cars, they can be people. Like I said earlier, ice cream can be your population of interest. So anyways, the population of this example is cars produced at the factory. We're trying to get information on the cars produced at the factory. Now, concept of time, quality control managers are not going to be able to expect all 500-ish cars that are produced every day. So they're taking a sample of that. So our sample is the 25 cars that are selected. 25 cars selected from the assembly line. So we're trying to get information on all the cars, and we're going to do that by just taking a sample. All right, so moving on to question number 2, or at least part B. A politician uses a Twitter poll to find whether their Twitter followers agree with the passing of a recent bill. A total of 434 responses were recorded. So what are they trying to collect data on? Politician uses Twitter poll to find whether their Twitter followers, this is not the population in general. This is their Twitter followers. That is our population. So our population for this one, population for Twitch for this one is the politicians Twitter followers. Okay, the sample is the 434 respondents. The 434 people that actually responded to the poll would be considered the sample. Okay, that just about does it. Why did I say sampled? Should just say sample there. All right, moving on. Last example here. Nothing difficult about this. You just want to be specific and clear. So UNM, the University of New Mexico, emails students in the nursing program to gather information on the quality of courses provided and had 54 students respond. So what is our population? Our population. What I'm saying when you're identifying the population, we want to be specific. We want to be clear on who the actual target audience is, who are we trying to collect data on. So we are trying to collect data on students, only emailing students. They're not emailing faculty. So they're not emailing everybody involved in the nursing program, only students. Students in the nursing program. Students in the nursing program at UNM. So their responses are probably pretty bad because, you know, it's UNM and not NMSU. So the sample would be the 54 students that responded. 54 students that responded. Okay, so I hope I was able to make that clear. The population, we didn't want all students at UNM. We didn't want faculty or I don't know, like the accounting department that works at UNM. All we wanted was students. We wanted to collect data on students in the nursing program at University of New Mexico. The sample would just be the 54 students that actually responded. So not everybody that was asked, but the respondents. Fantastic. That's going to do it for this video, guys. Thanks for watching. See you in class. Bye-bye.